and to see who our attendees are live now. Let me run over there, run to the other side. Oh, it says I don't have any attendees. Okay, well.
I'm here.
Okay.
You're here?
Yeah,
I hear you, Ernesto.
Okay.
All right, great. Let me just see. I don't see Laura. Well, we'll do a roll call but I may run and look for her at some point. She was trying to get in. All right, so, well, now that says 18 attendees, now we have 4 attendees. Let me go back over there real quick. None are her. Okay, great. I'll keep an eye out there. If that number goes up, I'll run back and check really quickly. So welcome everybody. Go ahead and go to the next slide, David. So you guys, we've been getting better at this Zoom thing, and so David is running the slides. We've learned it's easier not to host and run slides and try to do everything at the time. Question? Was that okay? Here's another. I'm sorry, I'm just watching the attendees a little bit. Not yet. Okay. So I just want to welcome everybody. I'm still Kathleen Fedrosky, Community Outreach Supervisor and leading the outreach on the Eastridge to BART Regional Connector Project. And I want to welcome you to our second Eastridge to BART Stakeholder Working Group meeting. And we have a full agenda. We have 90 minutes, but we've practiced this. I think we can get it done pretty efficiently and still have time for all the discussion that we want to get in. And I hope it helped that we sent the presentation in advance, kind of give you a little heads up on what we're talking about tonight, and we can get through the first slides pretty quickly. It's also, I've already posted it on the website, so folks in the audience, you're able to follow along, or you're able to just download it faster. And I'll just do some really quick, oh good, Laura said she's here, yay. We'll do some quick housekeeping, the Zoom housekeeping. We'll go ahead and go to the next page or next slide. So this is being recorded. I made sure my colleague is not going on vacation tomorrow morning, so it will be up on the website by Monday for you this time. Last time I had all of we had everybody on mute, and we were unmuting everyone one by one on the panelists. This time I'm asking everyone to just mute yourselves, and that way we're hoping we save a little time, that we're not, unmuting each, but we will ask that you just raise your hand, and then we'll, ask you to unmute yourself, just so we're not talking over each other. And after each presentation, what we'll do is, we'll stop for discussion, and then we'll ask the audience if they have questions. And then the audience, they are muted, we'll have to unmute them so that they can speak. And anyone who's using their phone, you raise your hand by pressing *9 on your phone. And we'll do that after each agenda item. The idea is that, one person speaks at a time. And just do a brief code of conduct, please. That would be the next slide. The short version of this is we have a basic code of conduct. One person speaks at a time, no profanity, be respectful to each other and to all the community members and to panelists. That's the short version. Next slide, please. Okay, we'll just do a quick roll call. And what I would like to ask each of you is, since our last meeting, if you've had a chance to speak with community members, share what you learned. Do you have any feedback you'd like to share with us? And it's okay if you don't. I just don't want to put you on the spot, totally. But, and I'll just go ahead and I'll go through just the order that it's listed on the slide. So Ernesto, go ahead and unmute yourself. And then, hey, I'm here, and anything you've heard from the community or you want to share back from the last meeting?
Oh, well, same thing for us, what I'm saying the other day. Well, my name is Ernesto Barajas, you know me. I'm from Casella Neighborhood Association. I think most of the people, they know me. Yeah. And talking about the meeting last night, was kind of, yeah. But I mean, last night I talked to some of the neighbors, and they contact with the phone number for the meeting. And about this meeting, I've been talking to some neighbors, not everybody, because we don't have meetings lately.
Right.
And it's the same thing, like, I know it's hard for you guys. Try to, you say it's pretty hard right now to try to make a stop right there in Ocala. And I don't know how that's going to help. I mean, it's not going to help for us, but I mean, you guys do whatever you have to do. And thank you anyway to try to see what happens.
We have a presentation. So we did at the last meeting, we discussed, a lot of folks asked questions about the Ocala history. And so we have a whole presentation about that for you.
Okay.
Okay. Sandy, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Yay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sandy Flores. I'm with Capitol Park. And getting back to your question, I did discuss it with other board members, and everyone's excited for the light rail to be extended to Eastridge. No questions at this moment.
Okay, thank you. Julie, welcome.
Hello. Can you hear me?
We hear you, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to listen to the presentation. I didn't have a chance to go through it, and then I have questions at the end.
Okay.
And if they're not answered by the presentation. But I didn't meet any of you last time, so I'm a native San Josean and native Alum Rockin, I guess. So I've always been in Al Rock, went to James Lake High School, and I'm a PTCO officer, which is parking and control officer. And I'm just a half a block from the light rail at Capitol and Capitol Expressway. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Laura, you made it. It worked.
Yes, I did. Thank you for helping me out there.
You bet.
My name is Laura Rechica from District 8, and you were out there, not to the Welch Park community, and just a few people that I have spoke to, they're pretty positive, on the positive side, that this is going to happen also. Mostly everybody that I've spoke to, there are a few that are concerned about the construction, of course, but that's pretty much where we stand right now. It's nobody's ever going to be completely happy, I think. But
Okay. Jeremy, hi.
Hi, everybody. Jeremy Barus, President of the District 8 Community Roundtable. Hope you're all staying healthy and safe. And yeah, I've talked to lots of our members, our steering committee members and neighbors. And, just like what Laura had mentioned, lots of concerns around the construction and traffic. Obviously, that's the greatest concern. So folks are just, asking for, information and, the timeline and just concerns around the traffic.
Okay. Great, thank you. Craig, good evening.
As soon as someone rang the bell, so but that's okay. I got someone getting it. I haven't talked to too many people, but Kathleen, I think in one of our meetings, which was quite a while ago, we had some folks who weren't too happy with it, but I have not heard from them. So everyone else that I've talked to were pretty much, no one's opposing it at this point in time. So as far as I know, everything is going pretty well.
Great, thank you. Andre.
Hi,
Sorry.
President. I think I've talked to some of my neighbors, and I think they're mostly concerned about traffic. Not too much, because we're located on the west side of Eastridge Mall, so we need access to 101 mostly. I don't think a lot of people go east or north on the Capitol. But having said that, I also attended the Tuesday Board of Supervisors meeting on the future of Reed Hillview Airport. So I'm a little interested also in, I was a bit neutral about whether Ocala should have a station and I'm still kind of neutral about it. It doesn't personally affect me, or I don't think it really affects our neighborhood at all. But I'd be interested in knowing more about the decisions that were made to not have an Akala station, especially since it looks like Reed Hillview Airport is no longer going to exist in 10 years or so. And it's 180 acres. That's a huge development.
Yeah.
But I can see people also just having to hoof it to Eastridge, the Eastridge Mall station, to take the future light rail to wherever they're going. So.
And we have a presentation that will show that. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, Jessica, I know you're here.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
And I have heard nothing but good things and a lot of excitement about the project. All of the people that I've talked to that come to the Family Resource Center were unaware that this was happening. So I was happy to be the bearer of good news for a lot of them. They're very excited. Yeah, they were all surprised. And but yeah, I have not come across anyone sharing any concerns. So it's still been really positive feedback.
Okay, thank you. And John.
Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's well. Can you hear me?
We hear you. Yeah.
Good. So I haven't made it out in the community much in the past few months, but I have talked a lot with our retailers and restaurant operators about the project. They're excited about it. We typically have a pre-holiday meeting where I was going to give a presentation about it, but that's considered a gathering right now. So we cancel that meeting. So we will continue to inform our merchants about the project, get any questions from them that they have that I can ask you and bring up in these meetings. But so far, everyone's pretty excited about seeing the light rail come to Eastridge.
And, you know, I want to remind everyone too, if you do Zoom meetings, and I know it doesn't work for all the community groups, but for the ones that it does work, we are available to attend that as well. I always want to throw that out there. And we're going to talk more about community outreach as well. And so and I'll be picking your brains a little bit more at the end, towards the end of the agenda. Thank you. And then just next slide, please. We'll just do a quick, so you know, I'm here. David is running the slides. Do a quick hello to David. And you're going to hear from Ben Prasad and Hassan. Actually, Hassan's not speaking tonight, but he's here. Ken will be speaking, and Ziad. So we're all here tonight. And also, we have a guest speaker from our planning department, Jason Kim. And so next slide. Okay. And so last meeting, I'll just real quickly go over for those of you, if anyone in the audience did not attend or happened to watch the video of the last meeting. Just a quick overview. It was our first meeting. It was a getting to know you, get to know each other. So we did that. We all introduced each other. Ken gave a full project overview, the history of the Eastridge to BART Regional Connector project. And we also did an overview of the community outreach, what we've done in the past, what we want to do going forward. And then we had a discussion, and that discussion kind of started to build the agenda for today and going forward. And we're going to talk about that in the as we get towards the end of the agenda today. And then we wrapped up, and because that took 90 minutes, it went pretty quickly. And I sent that out to everybody. Did anyone have any questions?
Nope.
We're good. Okay. And also, I just want to mention that I did share that an overview at the August PAB meeting, and excuse me, the September PAB meeting. And they did ask that, so this next presentation that's coming up, so this was not initially part of the agenda, but Cindy Chavez wanted to get the next generation high capacity study that our staff has been working on in front of the community. And so you're the first to hear it. I haven't brought it to this project yet. So Jason Kim, I think was next. I'm not even gonna try to introduce it. I'm gonna let Jason do it all. I think it's better that way. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide. Introduce Jason Kim. He's our senior transportation planner with our transportation planning department. And I'm gonna let him take it away from here.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Kathleen.
Jason.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time tonight. I'm Jason Kim. I'm the project manager for the Next Generation High Capacity Transit Study. And if you go to the next slide, I'm just going to jump into it. So essentially, the study was tasked by the VTA board to help us understand if there's a more efficient and cost-effective way of operating the service we're operating on the light rail system currently with either a different mode or new technology or some other way of doing it. To actually answer that question, we had to answer a series of other questions because it'll help us really understand what VTA system currently operates, how new technology is going to help with our system in the future, and then when we have to make this decision about if we want to move over to a different technology or stick with light rail. And I'll go really in depth into these questions as I go through the presentation. So with the next slide, this is a very quick study. We started the study in about mid 2020, and we should be complete sometime in the spring to mid of 2021. We've completed the first two tasks, which are a strategic assessment and what we're calling the state of the industry. What these two tasks really do is it details VTA's strengths and weaknesses to help us understand what ways technology is going to help us. And then it also details all the new and emerging technologies that are out there and where we think some of the technologies that we know, like bus, light rail, things like that, where those technologies are going in sometime in the next 10, 15 years. After that, we're going to develop a set of scenarios for the VTA committees and board to consider about how to actually move forward with VTA with the changes to the light rail system. And then we'll kind of go back and then refine those and bring that back to the board afterward. If you go to the next slide, so with the strategic assessment, which kind of detailed VTA's strengths and weaknesses, we found actually a handful of interesting things. VTA's light rail system is actually one of the largest in the country in terms of total track miles and kind of geographic area it covers. It's also one of the most expensive in the country in terms of our operating costs. This was actually one of the main reasons why we were tasked by the board to look at this, is because we have relatively high operating costs compared to kind of what we serve. Also, our ridership is relatively low compared to some of these other larger agencies throughout the country. And what that actually shows us is that the VTA light rail system is kind of unlike most other light rail systems throughout the country. You typically see light rail situated in corridors that are very dense, and light rail systems usually are kind of smaller than ours. Our system is actually spread out over a very big geographic area. Santa Clara County is a very big county compared to a lot of these other agencies. And that we really are connecting kind of a couple high density points throughout our system, but there isn't density all through up and down our light rail corridors as there are in some other cities. Our operating speeds are actually pretty good compared to some other cities, even though I think the general conception is light rail is pretty slow in the county. The reason why the perception that light rail is slow is that driving speeds in our county are actually very quick and fast compared to a lot of other counties that have light rail throughout the country. The last thing I want to note here is that our light rail fleet, our actual trains, and our infrastructure, such as the tracks, the overhead catenary, and a lot of the other stuff, that has all been very well maintained over the lifetime of our light rail system. And so we actually think that we may have a couple more years of what we call useful life in our light rail trains than we originally anticipated. If we go to the next slide. All this is to kind of figure out how is technology going to help the VTA system going forward. I think the thing that we're all interested in and the thing that we're all excited about is automation. When we expect trains and buses and other vehicles to be operated without a driver, without an operator, whenever that happens, that's going to help us improve our operating costs because we no longer have to pay for an operator. It may help us actually increase how frequent our trains come because we can operate more trains because we don't have as many operators that need to fulfill those needs. but it actually may not help in a couple other ways. It probably won't actually help us increase our ridership, because ridership is heavily dependent on the land uses around the system. Someone mentioned Reed Hillview, the potential development there. Once that expands, that will actually help ridership kind of for the Eastridge extension. That's the kind of development that we really want to see up and down our entire light rail corridor. We also don't think that changing to automation is actually going to help our system speeds. The key to that is a lot of our slow speeds throughout our county that we're finding are due to all the at-grade intersections we have in our county that light rail crosses. One of the great things about the Eastridge extension as well is that it's fully grade separated. So the actual light rail speeds on the extension are going to be some of the fastest throughout our entire light rail system when it's built. For the actual timeline of implementation that we're looking at, as I said, the typical what we call the useful life of a light rail vehicles is 30 years. That's the anticipated amount of time that you're going to have your light rail vehicle before you essentially have to get rid of it and replace it with something else. We bought our light rail vehicles around the year 2000. And so we're anticipating to have 10 to 12 years of additional life from today in our light rail system. Specifically for the vehicles. We actually think because our vehicles were so well maintained, we may be able to squeeze a couple more years out of that and extend the life of them a little bit longer. But the key here really is that even though we may have 10 to 12 to 14 years left of useful life in our vehicles, we really have to start making a decision about what to do with that new light rail fleet, because even though we know when these vehicles may come offline, it's a long process to get new vehicles or switch to new technology. We need to, order the vehicles, get them delivered, figure out how to pay for the vehicles. We need to kind of put specifications together for the vehicles to detail what they're going to look like. So really our timeline for deciding on what to do is really just a couple of years from now. If we go to the next slide, I now want to switch gears and talk about technology, some of the technologies that we're looking at as part of this. We focused our technology review on existing modes like bus, light rail, automated guideway transit, personal rapid transit. Those are the kind of things that you would see at airports as airport people movers and things like that. We also looked a lot into emerging technologies that haven't really been used other places, and are technologies that there's some private companies kind of proposing throughout the country and throughout the world. One of the key things we looked at here is, as I mentioned before, autonomous operations and how soon some of these different kinds of technologies can offer autonomous operations. And one of the keys for us is that recently the city of San Jose put out a Airports Diridon Stevens Creek Connector RFI, a request for information, which had a lot of these larger companies submitting proposals about how they would potentially create a connector to connect the airport Diridon and Stevens Creek. Some of the kind of notable names in that were the Boring Company submitted something for us to look at, and Hyperloop submitted something for us to look at. So there was actually a lot of technologies that submitted, and we actually took a lot of that information away to help us figure out what technology trends we actually think are coming up. If we go to the next slide, some of the keys for VTA is that some of the trends that we're seeing with kind of the industry is that most of these innovative technologies like Hyperloop and Boring Company, they're offering fully autonomous operations, but they require full grade separation. You need these completely different corridors, and they can't actually just operate on the roadway how our light rail operates today. A lot of the technologies that actually show a lot of promise and actually seem pretty realistic to us are either rubber tired, like cars, vans, buses, or they look like traditional trains and other rail related vehicles. We're not really seeing a lot of technologies that I guess kind of look like what you would consider futuristic. Like the bottom left-hand corner is a good example. That is something that's kind of more of a gondola type system. We're not really seeing a lot of promise in the technologies that look more like that. A lot of these newer technologies that are kind of really they kind of seem more like highly advanced buses or highly advanced trains. And a lot of these are offering a lot of benefits, but they also have a significant number of risks just because there's so many unknowns. A good example of this is the Boring Company is building a test track in Las Vegas right now. And there's already some reports that they may not be hitting some of their estimated goals when they signed a contract to actually construct that system. So I think for VTA, we're more in a wait and see position when it comes to some of these newer, what you would kind of consider more innovative technologies. I think the last thing I want to touch on is we really see automation and automated kind of buses and trains coming quickly along with technology. We actually think that the technology will probably be there for a lot of these systems sometime within the next 10 years. The thing that it will actually take a lot longer is the regulations behind these. The California Public Utilities Commission governs all light rail operations throughout the state. And if we ever move to autonomous operations on our light rail system, the California Public Utilities Commission will have to okay all of that. I think those kinds of regulations are things that are going to take a lot longer. So we believe the more realistic timeline to see an automated light rail train is probably somewhere in the next 15 to 20 years or so. So if we go to the next slide, I think all this being said, what we're seeing out of the study is that there's no real one single brand new mode that sticks out to VTA that kind of checks all the boxes for us about how to move forward. There's actually a lot of different modes that would make sense for VTA to move forward with. And this includes just keeping with light rail and buying new light rail trains, or maybe even converting the light rail corridor to let buses operate on them. And that these standard modes like bus and light rail are really the things that meet VTA's purpose and need for the light rail system the best. As I mentioned before, a lot of these newer non-standard modes, they offer way too many risks for VTA right now to think about. But I think one of the keys here is that we don't want to completely ignore these modes. These are things that we want to keep studying. And that even though they may not be right for VTA's near-term implementation, which I mentioned is about 10, 15 years from now, they may be ready for future consideration, when we kind of go through this whole process another 30 years from now or so. And I think, as I mentioned before, autonomous operations are really going to come to all different modes that we're seeing. So we're not really considering if a mode or technology is autonomous or not as really a big differentiator on whether we should choose it or not, because we really think these kind of autonomous operations are going to come to everything. I think some of the keys here for the Eastridge extension is that we're not really looking, or we're not, I guess, recommending to move forward with some completely brand new technology that is completely incompatible with what we're operating today. We don't really see the merit in that. We don't really see how some of those new technologies actually fit the type of service VTA is trying to operate in the future. Also, one of the things we're realizing is even if the VTA board chose to move forward with a brand new, completely different technology, that the timeline for that transition would take decades. Just the timeline it would take to switch over a small portion of light rail tracks to a completely brand new technology would take years. And we would have to do that for over 40 miles of track we have throughout our entire system. So any investment in light rail that we make today is probably going to be around for a very, very long time before we figure out kind of what to do with it next. And with that, I think I really want to talk about kind of the next steps of the study. So David, if you go to the next slide, the next step is really the scenario development process, where we're going to put together a handful of scenarios for the VTA committees and board to consider about how to move forward. Essentially, these scenarios are going to detail ways that VTA can replace, upgrade, and integrate a new or existing mode into VTA's light rail system. An example of this is we propose VTA just buys a new light rail fleet, replaces the old fleet with new vehicles. This is what the transition timeline looks like. Another possibility is let's figure out a way to operate buses and light rails on the same corridors. This is the kind of construction that would need to happen in the first couple of years. This is how many buses we need to buy. Those are the kinds of things that we're looking at as part of our scenario development process. These are currently being developed, and they should be presented to the Capital Program Committee sometime in early 2021. After that, we'll kind of bring it around to some of the other committees. We'll come back, refine some of those scenarios, and then we're hoping to have the final report complete by spring to mid 2021. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions. You're muted, Kathleen.
Yeah, there we go. I forgot I muted myself. So if anyone has questions, if you want to raise your hand, I'll call on you. I'm scrolling up and down. I don't see any. Okay, now I'm just going to say unmute yourself and ask a question. No questions?
This is Laura.
Okay.
So basically you're saying that Number one, is it going to be delayed? And number two, you're not going to go with new technology because it's going to prolong the process. Is that correct?
I guess to clarify, we're not really seeing anything in the study that would delay the construction or implementation of the Eastridge light rail project.
Okay.
And I think even if the VTA board chose to go with a completely brand new technology, we actually think that transition would take a huge number of years, and that because of that, it actually shouldn't delay the potential benefits we would get from Eastridge in the near term while it's being constructed.
Okay, I just wanted to get clarification on that.
And that's why Cindy wanted this presentation sooner than later, because it's really important that the community understand that whatever we're looking at for the future does not delay this project today.
I guess hearing the 15 to 20 years and all those 10 years, and it just seems like we've been waiting so long.
I know.
I mean, it just seems like forever, but thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Anyone else? We lost a panelist. I'm not sure
It
who
looks
went.
like Craig has his hand up.
Yeah, hi. So, yeah. So what you might be talking about this later on, but with the airport supposed to be closing and housing going up there at Ocala, will that not change because in the last meeting, in the August meeting, the question came up about having to stop at Ocala, and it was said that there weren't enough ridership there. But with the perspective of the Reed Hillview closing and homes going there, that would definitely add ridership to it. So would that not change the dynamic from August?
I don't know, Ken, did you want to touch on this? Because I know you're talking about this later.
And we are, yeah, we are.
If you're gonna talk about it later, it can wait.
We totally have that in the next presentation.
That's
Is
fine.
it okay to
That's
wait
fine.
on
We
that?
can wait.
Okay.
Yeah, I can wait. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Craig.
And one other thing, one of the first slides, did you say that VTA was in the top 3 in the country in rail? Area?
Yeah, in terms of the area it covers. But this is it's specifically light rail. A lot of other bigger cities will have things that are BART, which we don't really consider light rail. That's more of a heavy or metro rail. But yeah, so light rail is kind of a very specific system. And there's really, I think, about 30 different light rail systems throughout the country. We're in the top third in terms of kind of size with those.
Okay. So you were speaking of light rail and not rail overall.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's okay. I'm a rail guy, so that's okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. I'm checking over on the attendees. Or audience attendees. I don't see any hands. I'm going back to panelists. I don't see any hands. Okay, we can always come back if there's questions later. So I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next one. Go ahead and next. Actually, can you go back one slide, David? Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. Go back to questions. You know what? I threw in a video slide that didn't make it into your deck. So while I am chatting about this video, we're going to actually switch screens. So David's going to stop sharing his screen for a minute, and then is going to start sharing his screen. We're going to show you a video. When we talked about at the last meeting about the tools we use to communicate the project and how we communicate what things are going to look like. And one of those is videos. And we just got this one, and it needs a little bit of editing, so it's not ready to go out to the public. So for those of you who are in the meeting tonight and those of you who are in the audience, congratulations, you get to see it first. And the Zoom platform, it is a little choppy this way, but in about 2 weeks, we will have it online. And this is going to show you what the project is going to look like for real when it's complete. This isn't showing you the construction. This is showing you the complete. So go ahead, Ben. You got it.
Eastridge to BART Regional Connector Project is a 2.4-mile light rail extension from the Alum Rock Station to the Eastridge Transit Center. When complete, this extension will provide a seamless connection to regional rapid transit service and greater travel options for Santa Clara County residents. The project features include an elevated guideway along Capitol Expressway and an elevated station at Story Road, a street-level station at the Eastridge Transit Center, and 2 power substations located near Ocala Avenue and Eastridge to provide power to the rail system. A high-voltage PG&E transmission power line between Ocala Avenue and Quimby Road will be relocated from the median to the east side of the expressway to provide room for the aerial guideway. The extension begins south of Alum Rock Station and gradually rises along the retaining wall near Westboro Drive, before crossing over Capitol Avenue to an elevated guideway within the median of Capitol Expressway. The alignment continues via aerial guideway toward the Story Road intersection, where a new elevated station will be accessible from both sides of Capitol Expressway by an arched-shaped steel pedestrian bridge. The Story Station platforms can be accessed by stairs or the elevator, located on the east and west side of the Capitol Expressway that connects to the pedestrian bridge. A center elevator connects the bridge to the station platform. The extension remains elevated from the Story Station as it continues south within the median of Capitol Expressway. After Cunningham Avenue, the alignment shifts to the west side of Capitol Expressway, heading south towards Tully Road. As it approaches the Eastridge Transit Center, the alignment crosses over Tully Road on the west side of the intersection before descending to Eastridge Station. The Eastridge Station is a 3-car length center platform at ground level. Access to the platform is controlled by pedestrian gates, located at the north and south end of the platform. The Eastridge Station provides convenient access to the existing bus transit center and park and ride lot. South of the platform, storage tracks can hold up to 9 rail cars to address peak commute demand. The Eastridge to BART Regional Connector Project, when complete, transforms Capitol Expressway into a multimodal boulevard, offering safe connections to BART and other regional transit systems.
That was actually less choppy than in our practice runs. So maybe Zoom in the evening is much better than Zoom during the day. Thank you, Ven. So what you think? Pretty cool.
I have one question.
Sure.
I noticed he did not pronounce, the person whoever did the audio, Alum Rock, was not pronounced correctly, so you might want to change that. Alum. Yeah, so typically when people are not from a general area, they don't pronounce words correctly.
Yeah.
If it can be
There's
changed.
a couple edits. Yeah. It was noted.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. It's kind of like listening to Siri. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, like I said, you're the first group to see that. That's one of the first videos. We have another video that we're working on. It might be ready in February for sure by May, when we meet at that meeting, that will show the construction of how that gets built. And as we were talking about, you know, everyone wanting to know about the traffic, each of these meetings is going to build on that. But right now we're going to go ahead and turn this over to Ken. He's going to give us the Ocala area history. This was something that we talked about at the last meeting, and he's prepared a really thoughtful presentation that hopefully addresses all the concerns that were heard at the last meeting. I think they do. I think this does, I mean. So Ken, we'll let you take this away. I saw him.
All right.
Here.
So,
Yep, there he is.
all right. So welcome everybody. To go to the first slide on this, the little preamble that I want to start with is that oftentimes there's no good answer. And I think this might be one of those situations that there are a lot of competing interest at this one location. It kind of reminds me, I have 5 kids, and I teach them a lot of the times being an engineer math, and you have to have more equations than you have unknowns for the math to work. This feels like we have a ton of unknowns and a few equations. And by unknowns, I mean challenges. So we're going to get into that. I wanted to start by just saying, though, that that there's a variety of things we're going to cover. And if I am not able to articulate it on the slide we're on, this is a dialogue. So stop me, let's work through it, make sure we don't go to the next slide until you understand it, because the whole purpose here is to share with you why we got to where we're at, and then what the board used to make their decision. So just kind of this is a dialogue, not a monologue. That's my hope. So we're going to start with this. The Ocala area does have a history. It goes all the way back to 2004 when we started this project, and it's evolved over time. Part of the strategy was to improve the corridor in phases. First phase you see on your screen, there were the bus and the pedestrian improvements. So in the lower right-hand corner, you see the BRT station at Ocala. On the top of your screen, you see what was the roadway widening. If you remember back before the project started, there was no sidewalk on the expressway. There is now a continuous sidewalk, there is landscaping, there are street lights, and there are pedestrian lights. This corner here is the corner looking south on Capitol Expressway at Ocala. And this is going to be an important corner in our conversation tonight about the history of the Ocala light rail station. So next slide. So in order to understand the challenges, what we thought we would do is walk you through some of the graphic information, the exhibits, so that you're not just hearing the words and you're not just kind of hearing the categories, but you're actually able to walk through with us what we struggled with as a project team, what the board struggled with making decisions. So this is the existing condition today. There are improvements, houses on 3 of the 4 corners. On the lower right-hand side is the area for near the airport, on the lower right-hand side. So we're really looking at this with the north to our left, south to our right. Look at the left turn lanes. There's 2 in each direction in the current condition. Okay, next slide, please. So this was the original design. The original design did have an Ocala platform. That Ocala platform was in the median. It was between Ocala and Cunningham, and it had a significant amount of property acquisition. It also had only single left turn lane in the northbound direction. So the original plan with Ocala platform had only 1 left turn. Today there's 2, and it took property acquisition to a whole litany of houses on the west side and north side, so the northwest corner. So that's what was actually approved in the environmental document. That was how it started. Next slide. The photo on the right shows the property acquisition. It shows the removal of backyards. Only about 3 to 4 feet will be the new sound wall from several of the homes. As we said before, there's only 1 left turn in the northbound direction in this scenario. And those were the impacts. The value for the project was the ridership. Well, the ridership was estimated at 250 boardings per day. That did not include the Reed Hairview Airport closing and reconfiguration plan. I also listened to the full board meeting the other night, stayed the whole time and listened to the comments and to the action. It did include that. Even today, there's no formal plan about what that development would look like. There's questions about it, and likely it would develop, but there's questions about what it would look like. But it's true, none of that was evaluated in this ridership. But we're an order of magnitude off. In our sustainability policy, we have a sustainability policy. We have a minimum criteria for a new light rail station. Our criteria is 600 boardings per day. What we're saying, if we do not receive 600 boardings per day, that station is not sustainable. And we don't even mean the construction cost. This is all construction cost aside. This is, we can't afford to operate and maintain a station unless there's more than 600 riders per day. So this stop had only 250 boardings a day. Granted, did not assume any development at Reed Hillview, but the ridership was low. There was another thing about the ridership that is worth recognizing, is that there are two services that are going on. There's bus and there's light rail. You would think that light rail ridership goes up when you add stations. Not necessarily the case. That ridership goes up with a variety of factors. One of the things that make ridership goes up is speed. When you add a station, we slow down the speed. Slowing down the speed actually has a negative effect on the overall ridership. And so when in our analysis, without the Reed Hillview build out, but just in the scenario of what we're talking about here, ridership is actually worse when you add Ocala's light rail station. The overall ridership goes down. That people end up not liking the use of the station, they actually shift from bus to light rail, and the overall ridership goes down. That is an anomaly that most of us intuitively would not conclude, but that is the reality. And so the board was faced with these circumstances. We don't meet our sustainability policy. Ridership is better without the station than with it. And we have significant impacts if we include the station. So in 2014, the board decided that the Ocala station should not be advanced into the final engineering and the construction. So next slide. So the story continues because it doesn't end there. So that was 2014. So after 2014, we decided that we needed to update the environmental document again in order to ensure we had good traffic information, and that we had updated the document because it had been going through some changes. And so we were faced with the other half of the challenge. So the original design, once again, had a median platform at grade station, one left turn in the northbound direction, and property acquisition. This is it there. This is what that looks like. This was the original, this was the layout. After we took out the Ocala platform, there is still challenges for what the configuration will allow. So what do I mean by that? When you look at this scenario, you'll note that even without an Ocala station, we have a challenge with the right-of-way. This graphic shows that even with no Ocala station, the red line down the middle, the two red lines, is where the light rail alignment goes. Outside of that, there's a single left turn going northbound. Going southbound, there's two left turns. When we have 3 lanes each direction, there is property acquisition, even in this scenario. So the Ocala station didn't meet the ridership. Ocala station had with it its own set of impacts that even without the station, we still had impacts for property acquisition here, right? So does that make sense? So there's a lot of things going on, but even without the platform, there's still a challenge for property acquisition. Furthermore, when we did the traffic analysis, this is the main point. One left turn northbound's not enough. Traffic congestion could not tolerate that with one left turn in the northbound direction. So look what would happen. If we add a second left turn, everything on the bottom half of the screen goes even farther to the bottom of the screen. Even more impacts when you try to add the left turn in. So next slide. So what we did is we decided the only way to get 2 left turns and the only way to avoid property acquisition and the only way to, or the best way to improve speed, minimize safety, because there was also a safety concern about children crossing this at grade from the baseball field and the schools. The only way to maximize this operations, minimize the safety risk, so optimize safety, eliminate property acquisition from residential homes, and allow 2 left turns was to go aerial guideway. That's the only way to fit everything that's required or is of interest at this location, even without the platform at Ocala. The bottom shows the reason we can do that is that you can have the through and left turn lanes under the guideway. So we're able to squeeze more lanes because of light rail. And so the 2 left turns really aren't outside going south, going northbound. We're now able to put them under the guideway. So the guideway allows us to fit in 2 left turns each direction without property acquisition, maximizing the efficiency for light rail and minimizing any conflict with automobiles and pedestrians, so therefore maximizing safety. So next slide. So this is just a summary of the actions that the board took over time regarding Ocala. This is not a new issue. So in 2005, the original project was approved that had Ocala. In 2007, there was a supplemental that still had Ocala, terminated the alignment that was going at that time to Neiman, and included only the single lefts. In 2010, we approved the pedestrian and bus improvements, and it was in March 2014 when Ocala Station was analyzed with new traffic data and an understanding that the property acquisition that was approved in 2005, the community didn't like it. We had a lot of outreach when we went back to 2014. They said, I don't want my house taken. I don't want acquisition for that. The ridership is low. How can you take my property when your ridership doesn't even meet the sustainability? How can you do that? And so we had pushback from the community about taking properties when the station didn't even meet the sustainability of our ridership. And so at that time, the board said in 2014, okay, we're going to remove the Ocala station. We then went back in 2019 and said, and by the way, there's even more to the story. If you want to put the left turns back in, you can't do that without aerial guideway. So in 2019, the aerial guideway was the change that the environmental document then upgraded to where we are today. So today we have an aerial guideway that eliminates any property acquisition from any private properties for houses. It has 2 lanes each direction to minimize traffic impacts, and there's no Ocala station. So the next slide would be, all right, well then what if you today, because this is what I would ask if I were you, what if today we want to add it back in? I know that's what's been approved. We know that it's not there today. Add it back in. What would that look like to add it back in? Or maybe how can you design it to not preclude light rail in the future or a station in the future? Here's the challenge. All the constraints that we just talked about are challenged when we try to do an aerial guideway. I can show, and I don't have one here, and as we were going through the video, I realized that it would have been good to have a capture of the view at Story, so you see what that looked like for the aerial guideway. But since we have an aerial guideway, the only way to have a platform in an aerial guideway is to widen the road, have elevators, because you have to be able to get to the elevated platform. You also need to have pedestrian overcrossings because you have to get over to the structure, to the station. So if you think at Great Mall, we have an aerial guideway. There's a big touchdown on one corner. There's then an overcrossing and there's elevator in the ground. You have to have space for the elevator on the ground. Also, there's a platform. That white thing right there is a platform. That platform has to be straight. It has to be flat. It has to be straight and flat because a train that has axles that cannot flex like an accordion, I mean, they have to be level with a platform, have to be in that configuration. To have a wide platform, you need a wider structure. A wider structure requires wider columns. Wider columns require wider foundation. So this isn't theoretical. What we did is we went to Story, the exact same station layout, and we copied what Story looks like, picked it up, and we moved it here in the white. So this here is what not a fictional station looks like. It's what Story Station looks like on Ocala. So this is what it would look like if you were to put an aerial station at Ocala. You would have to decide which side you want to put the overcrossing. Probably would avoid the east side because there's homes there. You would probably have only one POC, it would be on the west side. That one POC on the west side would be, there's room for it. But if you notice here, there are no more left turns, none whatsoever. You can't put an aerial structure, a platform at Ocala and still have left turn lanes. If you want to put an aerial structure at Ocala with an aerial platform, then you have to move the whole alignment down the width of 2 lanes. When you move the whole alignment down the width of 2 lanes to the west, you then have to offset the left side of the picture so that you're not running into, with through lanes, the median. So that means the left corner has to go 2 lanes into those houses that we were avoiding in the first place. So there's no way to put an aerial station at Ocala without taking either both left turns or taking houses for the whole stretch on the northwest side of the intersection. It's not possible. There's just not space. It's not there. The whole reason we're elevated is because there's no space. We're elevated in order to put the left turns back. To now put a platform there, we have to add 2 more lanes worth of median. That's 22 feet. That means we have to take those houses. So then you might say, well, then don't put it at Ocala, put it down at Cunningham. So the next slide. So if we were to move it down to Cunningham, so it can't, if it doesn't go to Ocala because of the left turns or the property acquisition, and it can't go to at Ocala because realize we have to have a straight tangent. So you have to have, there's a curve in the road. So we got to find a straight place to put it. Well, let's move it down to Cunningham. Cunningham has 2 problems with the POCs. One, on the east side, that's a protected creek. So we have approached in the past the water district about a POC without a platform, and it was not well received. This is a protected area that really is not available for a touchdown. We wanted to put a POC here even without it, just to get from one side of the road over to Eastridge. Now we're a block away, but the same creek. So that's a protected area. The other side, those 3 blue lines, are large scale, high pressure gas lines. These are the San Bruno gas lines. These gas lines were retrofitted after the San Bruno fires, and they're 36 inches and larger, 3 of them. So the orientation that you see are these gas lines. Those gas lines run, if we go back, it won't show this. They run along the the trail that the electrical transmission line follows near Foxdale to the lower left of this screen, they follow that alignment. So they enter the expressway right about here. So there are gas line conflicts that are significant on this side. So there's no good place to do an overcrossing of any kind here at Ocala. If you go to the next slide. Then the challenge comes this, is that if we were to put a platform in, what is the appropriate space for the platform and for stations? And Jason, who's a planner, knows better than I do, but as we just said early in the presentation, I said that the ridership actually goes down when you add a platform. So think of First Street. Ironically, if we were to get rid of stations, ridership would go up. That if you could speed up light rail by not stopping at stations and be faster, more people ride it. So interestingly enough, you start to have a challenge. So what we are showing here is that if you take the middle of the property and the airport were to develop, and that the airport, if we use that as a measure, and I do appreciate there's other properties outside of the airport that would use Ocala Station, but equal distant to our left is Story. But if you were to just take the new development at what may be at the airport, the distance to Eastridge platform and to Ocala platform, if it's all the way to Ocala, is equal distance from the middle of the property. If you move it to Cunningham, it's even less difference, right? They're equal now. It gets even closer to Cunningham, but your travel time, how do I say it? So your best case for Ocala is to have it as far away from Eastridge as possible. Even as far away as possible, at best case for the middle, it's even. Does that make sense? And so the point is that it feels like it would draw a lot of people. It feels like it would be attractive, but really, because Eastridge is so close, and because there's so many impacts associated with trying to get a platform at Ocala, and it feels like there's this big open space that should be an easy place to put a station, it really isn't that simple. And so, without trying to justify what was done, it's not my intention. My intention is just to explain what was done. We wanted to at least show you the rationale of how we got to where we are today. So if one were to say, I want the Ocala station, we would then have to decide, okay, the board would have to agree to redo the environmental document. There's a delay with that. There would be an increase in cost, probably in the $25 million range. And that's just kind of a rough number that we're pulling out on a project that right now is already challenged on its expense in comparison to its overall ridership. And there would be environmental impacts that would need to go back to the community. So there's always a chance, we haven't built it yet. There's always, options, but I just want to make sure that we're fully aware of the consequences if we decide that, no, we really want an Ocala station. It's not without real consequence in a lot of ways. And so my goal is really not to persuade anybody, but to make sure that everybody understands what the situation is and that we're sharing the information in kind of a transparent way, so that we're fully informed. And so what I want to do now is just open it up for questions, because I'm sure there's questions around it, but I wanted to at least, give you the benefit of the history, and then we can get into some of your questions now.
Keep forgetting to unmute myself. Just go for it. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Thank you, Ken, for the presentation and for that background. I found it very, very helpful. Not so much a question about the stop, but at the beginning of your presentation, you talked about people jumping from light rail to bus or bus to light rail, how it loses ridership or something like that. I'm sorry, I was a bit distracted. Do you mind just reiterating that?
Yes, yes. So a couple of things are worth noting. So our numbers for ridership are based on a regional number, a regional model that takes all of the origin and destinations into account and then runs a model with different scenarios. So for example, so there's the arithmetic for the model has factors for how fast light rail can go, how many stops, how many people in that area would take it, what their threshold is. So like if they're within half a mile, they may walk, but if they're 3/4 of a mile, they won't walk. So it does all these things and it pushes all this data and out comes these numbers.
Sure.
So I won't talk about the input, but I can talk about the output. So the output is this. If you add Ocala Station, ridership goes down for light rail. That people will decide to not get on it because it slows down, even with the one platform, to a degree higher than the number of people that decide to use the station. So it may not seem intuitive, but the modeling showed that the ridership went down. Another thing that was interesting was with the bus stop there, if you add the bus stop for BRT, or even a local stop and light rail with a bus stop at Ocala and no light rail station, the overall ridership is the highest. So not only does the light rail ridership go down, but the overall ridership goes up because the people that where they want to go, they use the bus stop. And if you were to assume that everybody that takes the bus stops can use light rail, that's not true. That doesn't happen. And so that shift between bus and light rail, when you have both a bus and a light rail at the same place, you compete against yourself. So the ridership doesn't go up when you offer light rail because you have a bus service
Sure.
there. Does that make sense?
Great. Thank you. Thanks for re-explaining. Appreciate it.
And I know it's confusing. Jason might have a better way of describing how the modeling works, but basically, if you have bus, which you need for sure, and you add light rail, you actually hurt yourself overall because light rail goes down and you don't get as much people. The same number doesn't go to the bus. It doesn't compensate. So the overall thing goes down. It's not intuitive. It's not, but that's what happens.
Yeah,
Great.
I can just add.
Makes sense.
Maybe help Ken out a little bit. Yeah, I think what Ken was saying with the light rail and bus competing is probably one of the biggest factors. Some people take bus trips for one reason, light rail trips for another reason. And with the way the model works, it kind of assumes people take whatever the fastest way to get to their destination is. And so you're right, it might be intuitive, but because of that competition, it just kind of changes kind of all the math behind the model. I think one other thing I want to add to what Ken was saying is that the travel time changes that stop would add is pretty significant in this quarter. Like I said, this would be one of the fastest corridors in our light rail system when it's built. And adding that stop, it's kind of, if you think about it, it's like kind of putting a stop sign on a freeway, right? The light rail speed is going full speed, then has to drop down to 0 miles per hour to stop at the stop and then ramp back up, So it would actually add a significant amount of time to the travel time for all the people who are going from, say, the Eastridge Mall up to the BART connection at Milpitas,
Great. Thank you both.
This is Craig. So Jason, what numbers are you talking? You're talking about significant numbers, but we haven't heard any numbers.
So in terms of the change in travel time?
Yes.
I would expect maybe a minute or more, actually. So for example, I don't have all the number off the top of my head, but the deceleration time to go from about 50 miles per hour down to 0, a typical dwell at a station would be 30 to 40 seconds or so. And then you add back the time to go from 0 to back to 50 miles per hour. So it would be pretty significant.
I understand. Okay, well, I understand what you're saying, and I understand Ken's demonstration or Ken's presentation. But as we all know, you can use statistics to bolster any argument either way, negative or positive. And Ken, it was a fantastic presentation, very detailed. But the issue is when we don't know how many homes are going to be there. So and I know you're going by statistics and models and all kind of calculations. But for the individuals who end up residing at that location, they have to get on a bus to go to Eastridge, go south to Eastridge, to get on a train to go north, and then on the way home, go past their home, past the stop that could be there, to go to Eastridge to wait for a bus to come back. It is, I don't know if any of you guys take public transportation, but that time feels like way more than the minute or 2 minutes that Jason is talking about for deceleration and acceleration as well. So like I said, I understand the models, I understand the presentation, and for folks who will be, and there's no guarantee that people will be on there, and there's no guarantee that people won't be on there. But we're building for the future, not for the present.
And I guess I would say, so I think there's two parts to it, Craig. And so if we were to go back, can we go back a couple slides? And then I would like to share my screen if I could at some point, because I have a couple of graphics on my screen. So if we go back a little more.
And while you're doing that, I'm just going to give everybody a time check here. It's almost 7:45. We have a project. We have status updates with utility relocations, tree removal remediation, minor construction, traffic discussion, and community outreach. Now we can continue on this one, and I'm fine with that. I don't want to hold people past 8 o'clock, but if you guys want to continue past 8 o'clock, I'm game. But I just want a consensus with that, because I also know this is really important. It was really important last month, and I don't want to pull it from you either, but I want a consensus from everybody. So if you guys are game and you want, because I can tell this is important. Thumbs up to keep going. Not everybody has their picture up, so. Okay.
I don't have that access.
Are you
I can't find it.
All right, but if everyone's good, we'll keep going. Okay.
Would you mind, David, would you mind letting me take over the screen?
You know what, Ken, I have to make you a host. Hold on one quick second, okay?
Okay.
Thank you all for being flexible. I appreciate it. And Ken, you should be a co-host now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So thank you. So I'm going to now go to my share. And there we go. That's me. Okay, so I just want to show, so this is what we're talking about when we talk about a median station. Just want to put it in context. So if we're going to put a median station at Ocala, what would normally be the width smaller than this little column over here is now this wide. So I think what we're talking about, so let's just say, for the sake of argument, that the ridership is extreme and there's a lot of ridership. The board would still have to decide then, is it worth putting a station in to take all these homes or take away 2 left turns when the distance for those homes is roughly the same distance as Eastridge? And that's the struggle that the board has, is that to add a platform is a great thing. An aerial station is a great thing, but it doesn't come without a cost. And that cost is not just money. We haven't even talked about money. I mentioned 25 million, but I'm not even talking about that. What I'm talking about is there's a lot of people that would say, you may want that platform, but these are our homes. And others might say, if you don't take our homes, that's fine, but I like my left turns. The problem is you can't have an aerial station without deciding which of those you want to take away. It's not possible.
Hi,
Ken,
hi. Oh, go ahead.
Ken, I realize this is difficult. Listen, I realize that this is not an easy decision to make. For one, I'm glad I'm not the one that has to make the decision, but I'm advocating for the community. And the supervisor will have to make that decision, but it's something that I feel strongly that it's needed. And I mean, the other participants can jump in and let me know whether they think, you know, way in left field, or if it's a necessity as well. And I know there's some people who are not, we can't see, but I mean, I don't live in that area, but I'm advocating for the folks who will be in that area as well.
And Craig, I think that's actually, so what should the process be maybe? So a staff, I don't think our job is to try to convince anybody anything.
Yeah,
so I think
right.
our job is to present the circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
And so what the board was faced with so far was a ridership of 250 against a criteria of 600. Now, I guess, and then this gets to be, I'm not a modelist, not a model guy that does models for the traffic stuff, but there is no approved project now for the airport. What they talked about Tuesday was agreeing to develop a plan that would set the approach of how one might decide what a new future would look like if in fact there is going to be one, right? They would set the plan, and nothing would happen until 2031. So we know that that's kind of the fact. But let's assume that there's going to be a station there. I mean, a build out of a development. So if you were to assume that, what we would say to our board, if our board were to be asked that, you know what, do you want to consider again a platform at Ocala? That we could do that. I mean, and you could do that. Matter of fact, everybody here, the whole purpose of this stakeholder working group is to inform you so that you can go to the policy people and express an informed opinion. So you absolutely can do that. And that's the purpose for this, right? For you to be informed, right? That is the purpose. And so you can go to them and say, you know what, we understand the history and we think you should reconsider. That's a valid approach. I just want to make sure that we're all aware of what that means. And then you can make the right recommendation from that, right? And so what that means would be this. If we were to, right now we're postured to do utility relocations starting as early as January, and award or advertise a contract that will be complete as early as February and on the street as early as the summer of next year. We could decide, if it were to be decided, that an Ocala aerial station should be included or not precluded, right? If not included, even to not be precluded, we would have to do a new environmental document. That new environmental document would require a new modeling for ridership to ensure the ridership and elements we're talking about here. It would require outreach again, and it would change the property acquisition. So I have not calculated this, but what we would be basically doing is we'd have to start a new acquisition for the additional property we have not acquired yet. I can say this, the property acquisition that we just went through is a year process. So once the environmental document is approved, which would take what? Kathleen, No.
I just see, I know Laura was waiting to speak and then Julie. So I was saying, Julie, I see you. And then Laura. Let's go ahead and finish, Ken, and then we'll have Laura and then Julie, okay?
All right. because I do want the dialogue, so I don't want to be monopolized. I'm sorry.
I want to
But
speak
I think
to.
it's worth knowing this, that we have about
And then Ernesto. Okay.
6-month or more environmental process that would have to occur after the direction. That would result in another year worth of property acquisition and equal amount for redesign. So we'd have to make sure that we were all okay with that, right? That we were all in agreement, or the board would have to decide that they were in agreement that yes, we're willing to buy more property. Yes, we're willing to delay the advertisement by probably now 2 years. We're willing to take the extra cost for the aerial station. And just noting, this is not, this, you know, it's all about transparency. The current costs from many board members are already challenging. The cost for the project in relation to the ridership is a tough correlation. That the ridership is very low for the existing cost. So we're not talking about trying to convince several members who are in this community. We're talking about a whole board that would have to make a decision. The challenge for us is that we would need, we don't have direction to do the Ocala. So we would need to make sure that if that was going to be the change, that everybody knew quickly that they need to redirect us. Because right now we're finishing engineering and we are actually going to be done in February. So I just want to make sure that we're all aware that it's not without consequence to make this change. This is significant if we were to do that. That was my only point.
Thank you. Laura, go ahead.
Okay, Ken, thank you for your presentation. First, just to kindly go back, this project has been going on for what, 20 years now? So there's been delays since day one. Secondly, I think all this is affected where we're going, but my main concern, not necessarily about what you're saying, but what is the difference between the Story location versus the Ocala location besides the home acquisitions? Okay, number one. Number two, I know in the Story location, there's, I don't know, has anybody taken into consideration the activity that goes on there? And that's, for me, that's a big one, because if I had to go take, catch the light rail and go down to that station, I don't know how I would feel getting on and off there, you know, at that particular location, knowing what I know, what goes on behind those apartments in the corner there. I can't even remember the name of them, the Knox or whatever, the apartments that are there in that corner area. There's a lot of activity that apparently goes on there. I need to get a clear explanation from you in order to sell that to my group, you know, of neighbors, because some of them would utilize that particular station.
Okay,
And
so
that's
the
a Story. I'm sorry, I'm confused. Which
I
location?
think it's the Colmar Apartments, I think is all that area right there in that particular area. That's the location where the station is going to be at. Isn't that correct?
yes, so the station
Okay.
is on the right side of this screen. So the station is right here at Story, with the overcrossing on one side touching AutoZone, and on the other side near the current supermarket, or the gas station and the
Gas
market.
station.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the orientation for the location for the Story median station.
And that's where my concern is, because the apartments that are right behind there is a lot of gang activity, number one. There's a lot of, you know, shootings there. I mean, there's just a lot there. And only because I know people that have lived there in that particular area that have had to leave that. That's my main concern, is safety, for number one. lawsuits, if you're going to be spending all kinds of money, because you're concerned about the land acquisitions and changing the whole thing. I mean, if that's what the board is concerned about, they need to be concerned about lawsuits that are going to come into place if somebody gets hurt in that particular area. That's, because that's a big thing for me is safety.
Yeah.
That's something we can share back at the PAB meeting next month.
Yeah, because I don't know
We
if
can bring
any,
that with the, yeah.
with all the conversations that we've had, the meetings that we've had, nobody has ever responded to the fact that, that was a concern. Safety was a concern. It's just, wait a minute, let's just plop it right here because we don't have to acquire any homes. We don't have to spend any more money. Yet we've been paying taxes for this for years, and it's been accumulating, but apparently, we still, now the costs have gone up and now we're going to have to agree to something and sacrifice our safety because nothing has been done in the last 20 years.
So yeah,
That's my concern.
Okay, and that's I think your feelings are valid, and if your references to the station at Story, its location was chosen not because there's not without impact. As a matter of fact, there is impact. We're widening all four corners and acquiring quite a bit of right of way for the project at Story. So it's not that there's no impact. There's no full acquisition on this side, but there is a full acquisition on the lower right-hand side because of the roadway widening. The reason Story was selected was because of its attraction to ridership. That actually Story and Capital Expressway location is a value for access, and so its location wasn't picked because of impact. Minimizing impact. It was picked because of access, and it was picked because of connection to the origin and destination. So it is really the center feature of the whole project because of its location in a positive way. It was always an important place to have a station. It was important for BRT. It's important for light rail, and it becomes really the center point for the ridership on this corridor. So it wasn't picked because it was a convenient place. It was picked because it's a demanding place for ridership.
Well, and I was at the Tuesday meeting with Reed Hillview, and even from the past years, our whole city has changed, increased tremendously without, wishing upon Reed Hillview closing. People are just coming here and people are utilizing, I know a few people that are utilizing, public transportation because they don't drive. There's just too much traffic. But, I don't want to prolong this conversation, but my whole concern is always been the safety of that particular area. And if the board has ever looked into what the crime rate, the east side, granted my area too, we all have crime everywhere, but just that particular area, the statistics there, I just wanted, I would feel safer to know that the board has taken that into consideration before just saying, okay, this is what we've decided and this is how it's going to go. But give us an explanation so that we can let our community know exactly what's going on.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Julie, you were next, and then Ernesto.
Okay, Ken, I totally agree with everything you said. In my job, being parking and traffic control, sometimes these both areas are my beat. I have no safety issues or fears, and I'm more hated than the police, supposedly. Our job is in the Story Road area. what I find in the Ocala area, there are so many cars, they're not going to use the light rail. They have cars beyond cars, and they're going to drive everywhere. So Ocala, I agree with you, would be a waste of time and money just in my year of doing these neighborhoods. And Story Road, you're going to find, I believe, if you're going to get gangs, it's going to be anywhere. And I deal with that apartment complex that you're worried about on Story Road constantly, and I never have any fear at all giving tickets, talking to people there at all. So I believe the Ocala is
just out of experience, my son had to pick up his aunt that was there, not recently, but he just happened to pick her up, and he was immediately approached by someone telling him, what did he claim? And I mean, you may see it in a different perspective. You said you've only been there a year, but I think people who have been there for longer periods of time, I think, and know the area more, I think, can justify that. And I think we need justification as to.
But I'm giving them tickets if need be. I'm in a negative light to them, and I'm still treated with respect. But Ocala, I don't see any of those people living there truly using it. They're car drivers. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. And one thing, appreciate that. Thank you, Julie, for saying that. I don't know if Kathleen, if everybody here, I'm sure they have access to it, but we probably should make sure that you have easy access to all the environmental documents, because I do think it's important to be informed and to do your own reading about it and evaluate all the criteria that went into the alignment. So part of our job as staff is to make sure you're informed about where we got to where we got. I think, there's a big difference between our ability to influence what's already been decided and in a package that just is about ready to go out to bid versus things that are like how we implement construction, right? So we can certainly influence how we implement construction. It's much more challenging for me, and I don't want to give the impression that like this station that story is going to change. I don't see how it could, right? And I think it's important that we're honest with each other about some of these things in that regard. So how we deal with safety, we need to talk about, are there places where you can hide? How well lit are we going to make this? What about our CCTV? What kind of safety and environmental design have we done so that it is minimized in safety risk and maximized in actual safety? Those are all things we can talk about. I don't want to give the impression that I have the ability to influence this station changing, because like we just said, it's the result of 20 years of work, or 15 years of work anyway. And so I think my job is to just present to you where we're at, and then to agree that we can share your comment with the board, and you can share it with us or also to the board, and really through the PAB. And so so I just wanted to say that, because I don't want to give the impression like we have a lot of opportunity to change those kinds of monumental things.
Okay, Ernesto, thank you for waiting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a couple of questions for you. I mean, like what they said, I just not talking about myself. I'm talking about our community, because our community does the one suffer about no stop right there. And I want to see, because I see the stop right there story in Capitol. I don't see any houses, but you guys don't buy any houses. So you guys have a small room right there to make the station right there. If you make the station in Ocala, I don't think you have to, like what you say, buy houses, things like that, and something like that, because you're not going to need that much room to make the station right there. And also, if you guys move the stop right there, or the station for the bus stop is right now, you don't have to buy any houses right there. And also, you guys, for me, because I've been walking my dogs almost every day right there, Ocala and to Capital by Eastridge right there. And I see that when they open those two lines right there to make a left turn or right turn, whatever, the traffic don't respect pedestrians right there. The traffic is so fast and things like that. You guys stop, or cancel one or two lines right there, one line, make a left or something like that, make turns. Of course, it's going to be low traffic, and there's going to be more people right there, getting the bus and things like that. And you're talking about the amount of people getting the bus right there. I don't know when you guys got the number of people, something like that, but I see many people right there. And also, you try to get out for the bus or for the bus and a Story Road, for the train, or Story Road or Eastridge, to get a bus, you know how much time it takes you to wait right there for the bus? 15 to 20 minutes. And it's a long time for people going to work or things like that. And what I'm saying, I want you to, I know your presentation is not bad, thing like that. I'm not, upset or something like that. But what I'm saying, I'm talking about our neighbors, because most of our neighbors, I see a lot of neighbors around here in this area, they don't even drive. They need to get a public transit. So yeah, I win. And another thing too, you're talking about waiting. You guys want to make a station, right? Thing like that. We can wait another year, 2, 3 more years. We've been waiting for a long time. But I want you guys to understand all of those things, about our people.
Yeah. Ken, are
Thank
you
you.
trying
Yeah,
to draw something to
Yeah, I want to show.
like
I want to
something?
just.
That's what I
I
thought.
wanna-
Okay.
So I want to, what I'd like to do, if you'll just indulge me, because I do think the most important thing to me is not where you land, but that you're informed. That's what I care about. And so I want to just talk about a couple things I just heard to make sure you're informed, right? Is that fair? So,
Sure.
So I'm going to walk through real quick. So forgive kind of this nature, but I think I'm going to try to take advantage of this opportunity to show you. This is not theoretical. This is actually the aerial. This is actually our line work for the light rail. This is actual design. On here, we took the design that is everything that's not white is the actual design, the design today. We took the actual design from Story Road, which is the minimum width, and we overlaid it with the white, right? So far, so good. So everything here is actual. This is not theoretical. This is actual. If we were to bring the station at Story and copy it down here at Ocala, this is what you would get. Here's the challenge. This yellow line I'm bringing in, that is the median of the road with the station. There are no left turns. The left turns are gone. You can't fit them in. The current alignment with no left turns, this is the curb. This thing right here is the curb. Right there. Let's assume you want the station, and let's assume you're okay with no left turns. Okay, then you're fine, because the other side of the road is right here in the red. Let's say you want let's say you want your left turns. That means this has to go there. That means this has to go there. If this goes there, this can only go with it. So you cannot add left turns without taking homes. It is not possible. There is no way to do it. And it's not a wish. There is not enough room. Now you can say, put a platform in. You can, no doubt about it. But you have to agree that you're either going to take all the left turns away or take houses. There is no other way. There's no third option. Because already we have curb right up against the columns, keeping that aerial structure in the air. There's no more space. And so I just want to make sure it's important. That doesn't mean you can't say, take the homes. That's valid. You can say that. But what you can't say accurately is you can put a light rail station and not take homes and have left turns. You can't say that. That's not possible.
No, I don't say don't take homes.
No. I'm saying, not you. I'm just saying to the world.
General.
We all have to know that, right? This is not theoretical, right?
Andreas. Go ahead.
I just two things. I don't have a question. I just want to express an opinion. It seems to me like maybe putting implementing a shuttle bus, a dedicated shuttle bus at Akala would make a lot more sense, just because of the complexity of putting in a light rail station at Akala, and then the unknowables that we have. We don't know how big. Well, first of all, we truly don't know whether Reed Hillview Airport is going to be closed, and we don't know how many people are going to be, how big the neighborhood is going to be there. And having a shuttle bus, a dedicated shuttle bus that runs maybe every 15 minutes to either Eastridge or Story, to those stations, makes more sense. It's more scalable for one thing, and it sounds like it's a lot cheaper than actually building a station there. And then the second thing that I wanted to say regarding Laura's concerns, I would frame it as an issue for the police and not the VTA. I mean, I'm not going to have gang members telling me or telling the VTA where to build the station. I would present it to your community members as something that the police need to address.
I have already addressed it to the police at prior meetings, but
Mhm.
I've never received a clear answer. That's why I want to know from the board if that was also part of their environmental document.
Mhm.
That's where I'm coming from.
Okay.
And we can point that out. And I don't know the answer, but safety is a part of it. So let's pull that out and make the environmental document available to all of us. And if you want, and I'm throwing this out, we can maybe walk you through the environmental document as part of one of these meetings, just so you know what's in it, how it's made, what the components are, and that you're fully informed, right? We can do that. We can walk you through the environmental document, make sure you have a copy of it, and kind of guide you through it, so that you have it, because that is our job, right? To inform you. I wanted to make a point too, because so as staff, our job, and I've said it before, but I hope my animation is to inform you. So I don't, my goal is not to sway. It's not my goal. My goal is to inform you. So when I'm talking about one can't, I really mean all of us. We can't say, right? This is all of us. So it's none of my comments are pointed to any particular comment or person or thought. I really mean it to be collective. So I want this to make sure you're all, recognize it. My goal is to inform you. That's it. And so to do that, I want to make sure that you don't get the feeling that I'm, doing anything other than that. So I just wanted to make sure that there was that point. I will say something about Andres, and maybe maybe a better job at doing that might be something that that Jason can do. But in this new technology, a lot of things like you're talking about can be done. So for example, we have a lot of bays at our transit center. Can they be dedicated to a shuttle? We do it all the time. Mountain View does just that. Private shuttles are used to come in and out of our transit center that are intended to do a particular service. And so there is a lot of opportunity in that regard, that you can use your bus stop for all kinds of other new technology operations that we haven't even thought of yet. And so I just want to acknowledge that's an innovative way to think about a different way to solve a real problem, that there may be riders here, there will be riders here that we want to get quickly to Eastridge. Light rail platform might not be the only one, and they might not all want to go left. to BART. Some do, some don't, right? So you're right. There may be a different opportunity here. So that's.
And Craig, I see you. Go ahead.
Real quick, just it's a great idea what you talk about, Andreas, but from someone who knows how buses operate, it will work when everything is working right, but when something happens, that shuttle will be the first thing that is not out there on the street for those people. The station, and listen, I said my piece earlier. If the platform is there, it's there always. That shuttle bus is not. It's they're contingent on personnel, and personnel is not always available.
Okay. So, okay, you guys still hanging in there? Okay, thank you, everyone. Ken, I don't know if you walked away, but I do need you to stop sharing your screen.
I will.
So that David can have it back.
I will. Yep.
Thank
I
you.
will. Thank you. There we go.
Okay, great. And then David, you can take it back and go to the project. And then Ven, you're still here, right?
I'm here.
Okay, guys. And I did make a note about sharing the environmental document, and I do have it. If you've gone to our website and you saw the little tab I had for the stakeholder working group, I have a tab just like that for the environmental documents. So I have them in order. If you go to the documents page, they're listed by type. And so it's a little harder because you have to know exactly what you're looking for. So I prefer to have them in order so you have an idea of when it might have occurred. That way, if you don't know what you're looking for, you can go by the when. So I can always send you that link. And if we want to make that an agenda item, we'll talk about that when we get to community outreach if we're all still here. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn this over to Ven right now. Go for it, Ven.
Thank you, Kathleen. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for staying with us this late.
As long as you let us right now. I'm there.
So I just want to give you a quick project update. I want to go through quickly on where we are on the utility relocations. We have some tree removal on the project. You probably have heard this before. I also want to mention about an advanced minor construction that's going to be happening very soon in a month or so. And traffic discussion, you have heard it before in our previous meeting, and we will be providing you regular updates on all these issues. You know, we'll pick up some of the topics for each of our meetings for the next upcoming meeting also. I understand from you traffic is an issue, so we'll continue to work and inform you and where we are on the project. So I just want to mention to you that the project is progressing very well in terms of design. And with design, you know, we are also identifying what are the things we need to do. One is the utility relocations. Next slide, please. So you probably, in the last meeting, we had mentioned to you about all these utilities that are required to be relocated as part of the project. The first one is the electric transmission line. You may have noticed the lattice towers in the middle of Capitol Expressway. Those need to be relocated to the east side. We have about 10 towers that has to be replaced with the tubular steel poles. So we plan to have this starting in the first quarter of 2021. So it's going to take about 4 to 5 months of work to relocate these poles. These are 115 kV transmission lines. Those are some are on the east side, some are in the middle of expressway. So those will be transferred or relocated to the east side. The second one I want to mention is some of the underground work we have. This is electric and gas relocations. Those need to happen. You know, you may be wondering what are these relocations, why it is needed. These are the utilities that are in the way of our project. I think the video kind of gave you an idea as to what's the extent of construction is needed for this project, right? It's a 2.4 mile long. It is a continuous bridge. And those bridge need foundations. The foundations, where the foundations are going is where you see these underground utilities. We have to also widen the road a little bit, so you see all those utilities in there. You probably have noticed all these boxes that belongs to AT&T, PG&E, San Jose Water. Those are all the utilities. Those need to be relocated. So we are relocating only the ones that are affected by the project. The third one I want to mention is the San Jose water line relocation, which is in the middle of Expressway. Those need to be relocated. These are right where our foundations are going. So those would be relocated also in the first quarter of 2021. So we do have other communication utilities, AT&T, Verizon, Comcast, and others. So all these are in design right now, and we plan to start relocating those in the first quarter of 2021. Next slide, please. So here is, you probably must have seen this before. This is the before and after view of the PG&E transmission line. So as I mentioned before, you see those lattice towers in the middle of Expressway. Those would be replaced with tubular steel poles you see on the right side, and those would be relocated on the east side of the Expressway. Next slide, please. So here is a plan view of where the existing PG&E line is and where it is proposed to be relocated. You see the yellow line is where the existing the transmission line is. You see the blue line on the east side is where the proposed transmission line will be relocated to. I want you to take a look at these numbers 1, 2, 3, because I have the next slide. It's going to explain what I'm going to be talking about. So if you see 3 is to the 3 is to the south of Ocala, and I'm sorry, 3 is to the south of Tully, 2 is to the north of Tully. And I want to mention, I want to go to the next slide here and explain more on this one. So like I said, we are relocating the transmission line to the east side of Expressway. So what PG&E's new requirement is, because of all the fires they had for all these years, throughout the Bay Area and other locations within around California. So PG&E has a new rule. Their new rule is we cannot have any trees under their transmission line. So on the east side, what you see on these pictures 1, 2, 3 are the locations where we have existing trees, and PG&E has been asking us to remove these trees. So we're looking at somewhere to about 50 to 60 trees need to be taken out as part of the project. So we are still negotiating with PG&E to see if this could be saved. And as we speak, we're still talking to them at various levels. So this is all a new development in the last couple of months that has come up. And we'll continue to negotiate with PG&E on this one. Next slide, please. I want to mention, speaking of trees, in our previous mention, we had talked about some of the trees that are going to come out as part of for the project. So those trees, it was not an easy decision for us to decide on taking those trees out, but because of the project, because where the footprint of the project is, so we had to take it out. So And so that happened with close coordination with an arborist and the engineers. You know, we all had a team of people determine each and every tree to see, you know, which one can we save and which one we cannot. So, you know, we have to take some trees for the project. Also, it is all documented in the environmental document. So I want to mention, I want to go the next one, which is coming soon, is the David, if you could go back to the previous slide, please. Yeah. I want to mention about the advanced minor construction here. The anticipated construction duration is about 2 months for this one. The work needed there is because of the widening of the road. You know, we have to relocate the utilities. Before the utilities could be relocated, there are some things that needs to be cleared. There are few trees that had to be taken out so that the boxes, what you see, you know, on the ground could be relocated for the project. So the areas of work is around Capitol Avenue and intersection of Story and Capitol Expressway. These are minor irrigation and minor civil work. You know, we have some a little bit of sidewalk work we need to do. We have to relocate some drains for this project. This is just to prep. This is a prep work for the utility companies like PG&E and AT&T and other utilities to come in and move their infrastructure or boxes to these locations. So that's going to be happening in January, February of next year. Next slide, please. So I mentioned about traffic last time. Ken did discuss about the traffic also. We will be regularly coming to you and giving you updates on traffic. You know, we have worked with the city and the county for the last 3 years during the design very closely. You know, how best can we have these lanes, you know, still open, especially during peak hours. You know, how can we build this project? You know, you have an idea now, you know, how much of extent of construction is required for this project. You know, building a bridge, you know, how much area we need to build the bridge, and, you know, how can we, you know, we understand, you know, the traffic on Expressway needs to continue to operate. So you know, we'll do our best to minimize the impacts on Capitol Expressway in terms for the traffic. So there is some night work on this project. You know, we'll be completely closing the roads at night. You know, if you may have noticed, you know, the bridge which is in the middle of Capitol Expressway is going to transition to the west side of Capitol Expressway, just to the south of Cunningham, you know, right in front of the airport. So those kind of work has to happen at night. You know, we cannot, you know, because of safety and the room that is required to build a bridge has to happen at night. And, you know, we'll be closing the expressway for this kind of a work. You know, when we close it, we will make sure that we have the proper detours. The other thing I want to mention is the community outreach. You know, we will have periodic updates to you. Probably, Kathleen, could be a weekly updates, right? Or weekly updates, I should say. Excuse me. So we will have a regular weekly updates to you. And in fact, on a daily basis, you would still see what's happening on construction on our website. And at this, you know, and also in addition to that, we'll tell you, you know, the traffic, you know, detours or all other information that's needed for the project. So we'll, you know, we'll do our best to, you know, minimize any, you know, impacts from this project. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Kathleen, or if you have any questions, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Do we have any questions? Yes, Andreas.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of trees. I think San Jose needs more shade from the hot
Mhm.
sun. So these trees that are going to be removed, up to, you said 50 or 60 trees, are they going to be relocated to another part of Capitol Expressway? Is someone going to make up those lost trees?
So, and that's actually in addition to the original amount of trees. So we're looking at closer, and Ben, correct me.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't have it in front of me. It's closer to almost 200 now for the whole project.
Correct.
Removed.
And right, and so I'm going to go back to when I first started at VTA, and this was my first project when we were working on the pet improvements, and I thought it was so cool because the first blog I wrote was about 600 trees that we planted on Capitol Expressway, and some of those trees are the ones that are being slated for removal. There is as part of the environmental document is depending on the size of the tree. It's usually 1.5 or 2 to 1 replacement, and they have to be replaced within 1.5 to 2 miles of the area. Am I getting that right, Ben? Did I remember this correctly? And then we are working with our city forests. With BRT, it was, we gave them the money for all the trees that had to be replaced. I'm not sure if that's going to be the same. It probably might be that where we give them the money to purchase the trees and they have to be planted in the area. And then they work with the community and, see if people want to have a street tree in front of their home. But there has to be a space and it has to be maintained. And that's always a challenge. But there is it does have to be maintained that, or, the idea is that there have to be more trees planted than that were taken away. And they have to be somewhere within the corridor near the project. I'm with you. This is a hard one. This is the hard, I hate delivering bad news.
It was not an easy decision. Yeah.
Especially since they're mature trees, or they look like
they grew, right? Yeah. I hear it, yeah.
So this is Ken Ronci. I'll just say a quick note on that. There's really 2 categories for trees. There's tree removal that is in direct conflict with the light rail project. We've done everything we can to avoid those or minimize them. Then there's another set that is related to utility relocation. We're challenging PG&E on that portion to try to save as many of those trees as we can, and to agree that we can do maintenance and try to find a way to get them to be cooperative and retaining the trees. So the ones that we're removing in the environmental document, it's just in direct conflict. There's just no way to not remove them. We just can't avoid it as much as we want. We would want to retain them as well. The other ones we're fighting very hard, and we will be, even going to our policy board members, seeing if they can help get some audience to get PG&E to retain those trees. But we just wanted to bring it to you. Kind of like I said before, our job is to be transparent, to inform you, to let your voice, be heard by us, and then to join us in expressing that to the PAB and to our board. Yeah. And then if you want to spend a little moment, we do have a lot of median under the guideway, and the area will be treated with certain kinds of landscaping, not trees, but it will have some kind of treatment. You want to speak to that real quick, just while we're talking about that topic of landscaping and trees?
Sure. We can also bring some details for the next meeting. So what Ken is saying is under the bridge, like I said, it's almost a 2.4 mile long bridge. Under the bridge, so we are providing planting. This is for a couple of reasons. One is to prevent any stormwater pollution, and we need to capture all the polluted water and then to be treated before it could be sent through the stormwater system. We call it as bioretention areas. So those bioretention areas would have planting. So, you know, under the, you'll notice that under the bridge, you know, we will have all those different kind of plantings that is required as part of, you know, the pollution control. So we do have some planting also at the Eastridge parking lot as part of the same process of stormwater prevention, pollution prevention. For the next meeting, we can provide that. We can bring some plant species, the ones which we are going to be using for the project.
I already noted that. Okay.
The
Any
other,
other questions?
the other thing, this is Ken Runce again. I just wanted to note, this is not the first time you're going to hear about traffic. It's certainly not going to be the last. This was an introduction. We only wanted to prepare you for the things that we know we need to come back to you. And as part of this transparency and information sharing, when we talk about we need to close lanes, we want to show you exactly why, so that you're informed about its true necessity and that it's not perceived as unnecessary. And so we really want to be able to walk through those details with you. So this is really an introduction about those categories of traffic impacts that we're going to bring back to you in great detail in future meetings.
Any other questions?
I have one little question, please. Okay. He said part or right there on by Eastridge, by the fields or baseball fields, the work they're going to do right there just going to be is in the night, right? I understood. Is right or wrong? What I understood is going to be just working the nights.
That's correct. I mean, so those the night work will be happening. You know, like I said, where it's transitioning from median to the west side. Also, you know, we'll be working at night where you know, the bridge work is where the bridge crosses over Story. You know, we have to close the lanes there. We'll be closing the lanes during installation of those arch steel bridges. If you remember, at Story Station, we have a steel bridge. So, you know, all those work, you know, has to happen at night because of safety, and, you know, we have to set up a crane, you know, to lift it up and do those. So those kind of, you know, activities, you will see, you know, roadway closures happening.
So our opinion, or Ernesto, is, or our understanding is that all of us want to avoid night work, and that's a goal. However, there are certain activities that cannot safely be done during with traffic. And so we want to be able to work with you to help ensure that we're doing it in a way that is least impactful. And that's one of the things we hope that you can help influence for us. For example, you know, are we better off doing work 24 hours and closing down lanes during peak hours and taking the brunt of traffic, or night work? Are we better off doing it at night for 5 days or 24 hours continuous? Are we better off doing it during the day with all kinds of traffic impacts and not night? Those are the things that will work with you. What we do know is that certain activities cannot be done with traffic. You have to do certain things that are going to be up in the air, and you can't have those things up in the air over traffic. So like big bings for false work, those kinds of things have to be done safe. To do that, we cannot have traffic around. So we either need to do them at night when there is no traffic, or during the day and understand that all the lanes are closed. Those are both options. And so we will be able to show you in another meeting. We had a very good example of this with a job we just did over at Montague pedestrian overcrossing, where we had to put that in, and we had several cranes that were in place to do that. And so we can share that at the next meeting as well. So our goal is to not inform you what's going to happen, but to share with you what the needs are for the construction, and to try to find the right way to implement it with you.
No, I understand. And I mean, thank you for you guys doing right. The only my concern is this: what happened if neighbors live around here start making complaints.
Right.
You know, I mean, I hope not, because like what you guys doing right now is a good right way, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, because can happen accidents during the day, and the night is more safe because there's not much traffic, not many people around there. I understand, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
actually,
Yeah.
so one of the things I'm hoping that we do, and I don't want to monopolize this, so I'm sorry, but one of the things I want to hope that we all do is that we believe there's going to be complaints. We believe that the people are either going to complain because traffic is bad,
Yeah.
or they're going to complain because they're working at night, or both. What
Yeah.
we want to make sure is that you as a group, as the community voices, help ensure that we're picking the least impactful, right?
Yeah.
And there is going to be times when we'll have to decide, do we want to impact traffic for this activity or night work? And we're hoping that you will help us determine that the complaints that we're going to get are not, that is the least of two evils, and that it was done with thought and provoked by an overall interest, and that you own it too. Help us own it, because when we get the complaints about night work, we want to be able to say the other alternative was daytime, and these were the things that presented a problem. So collectively, this was the best solution. And so we're going to go through all those details with you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that way we can talk to our neighbors and make them understand what you guys are doing. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay, anyone else? I'm gonna make, go ahead, Andres.
One thing, maybe this is a question that can be answered in our next meeting, but are there plans to make sure that this construction is not going to have any tagging, any graffiti? I mean, I can just imagine once this is built, the light rail, that the concrete supports holding up the actual rail is going to be covered in graffiti, like almost everything here in East San Jose.
We do have, and once the construction is complete, we have what's called a graffiti coating. So what it does is, if somebody, sprays graffiti, it'll be easily washed. So we have that. Yeah.
Kathleen, I'm thinking that maybe one of the meetings we want to devote is on the safety and security of those items, and we can maybe talk about what is our protocol for graffiti removal and abatement, and what is our plan for security and the lighting levels and the CCTV and those kind of things. We can't probably share exact locations out of security reasons, but we can at least share with you kind of the layout of those things, so that you're at least informed, if not able to give some guidance to us about things we should be careful about. And so why don't we have one of our meetings talk about that as a category?
We have a slide coming up on that, so perfect. Okay. Thank you. Any more questions? And we'll go on. Okay, let's go to community outreach, and I'll try to blow through this. You guys are such troopers. I'm freezing. Okay. Julie's all bundled up, and so she's like me. So for community outreach, I have a stakeholders working group member survey that I'm going to send out to you. And it's a really short survey, really basic questions. It's going to be, I'm going to send it out through SurveyMonkey. It's a really basic one because you have been asked to help share accurate information with stakeholders. And part of this is to help me create content that makes sense for the stakeholders. And it's also how it's shared. For example, at the last meeting, Sandy mentioned, in her area, in her neighborhood, not everybody is connected to the internet. So next door is not the best option, but door hangers would work and mailers work. So it's just some basic questions that I want to get just to learn more about what your outreach is, questions about the groups that you represent, how often do you communicate with them? And right now, let's kind of think maybe not so much in the pandemic issue, like maybe pre-pandemic, what we're hoping to get back to at some point. Because I know not the neighborhoods aren't meeting as often. I know some are meeting with Zoom now, but if they're not at some point when they do again, how many typically, do you meet with? What format do you normally send information? Is it flyers? Is it through internet, emails? And you're, I mean, I'm taking notes right now. You know, what areas of the project do you feel are most relevant to stakeholders? And we've heard traffic, traffic, traffic. And so definitely at the next meetings, we're going to start bringing those displays. I mean, we're talking about lane closures, but what does that really look like? What does that really mean when we start talking about this? We need to start bringing those displays in. And so you're going to start getting those. And so the survey, it's like 8 questions, really simple, just so I can start accumulating all this information. I'll probably send it out to you on Monday, which is getting into a holiday week. And so I'm thinking 2 weeks, if you can get that back to me, and we'll send little reminders. Cody is helping me do that. So I'll get that out to you. And it's really simple. And it'll just help me also form the outreach plan. It's very dynamic. It's not like once I'm finished, it's done and I can walk away and just work off of it. It's a dynamic plan. I'll always be updating it and adjusting it for the circumstances. And then don't change the slide yet, because I'm going to jump to the newsletter piece of this. That has been a moving target. I've been trying to get a newsletter out to this community for you guys. Basically just a, hey, this project is still happening because we haven't seen any work yet. You know, because utility relocation we thought was going to start this past summer. So I want to get something out that it's still happening. You know, what are the project benefits? I did put out to stakeholders, you know, about the stakeholder the stakeholder working group. But, you know, let's just get this out in the newsletter, let people know about you, but also about the upcoming utility work and the advanced construction, what people can start looking forward to, and try to get more people signed up for this, you know, our email list and what to look forward to for 2021. Because then the future newsletters are going to start talking about the construction safety notification and updates, the noise and vibration mitigation, the traffic detours mitigation. But I'd love to hear from you. What else should we start including in these newsletters? You know, again, this all comes back to that survey a little bit too, just, you know, topic ideas. Everything that we're bringing to you or what we think you should know, what we think you want to know, but we just want to keep hearing from you. What else? You know, is there something we're missing? If we're hitting it all, great, but if there's something else, bring it. You know, we'll work on that. You know, I look forward to letting you guys know when the field office is opening and exactly where it is. Even I don't know the answer yet. You know, what we'll have there, and I look forward to that grand opening. Okay, let's see, am I ready to go to it now? Yeah, we can go ahead and go to the next slide, David. I keep seeing David rubbing his eyes. That's good, he's still there. Okay, at the last meeting, we talked about, you know, all the different tools we were using and no, where you don't have to react to this in any big way, but we provided, I had shared that we had been identifying the businesses and schools and neighborhood associations. And we had shared that with the PAB, and I'm bringing you, and this was in the presentation. This is what happens when you work 12 hours. You start to lose your words. I had already shared this with you. What we're sharing today is the schools matrix. These are all the schools that we had identified in the project area. So if you want to go ahead and go to the next slide, David, that actually shows the map. This is a lot more interesting. What this shows you, and I'll back up a little. It was important to the PAB members, and it's important to us as well, that we reach out to the schools in the area, and they were like, there's 8 schools that are really important. And it's like, so we're like, well, what are the 8 schools? And we started looking, and it's like, oh, there's way more than 8 schools here. So if you look at the pink line, that pink line is the project alignment. That's where we're working. And then the yellow line on top, that is White Road, and the one on the bottom is King. And all the green shaded areas, those are all the schools that we've identified, and they're both public schools and private schools, charter schools, preschools, adult continuation. They're all the schools we could find. And so we initially identified about 35 schools, and then we shared this with the PAB members, And we did get some feedback. And for example, District 8 asked us to identify all the schools in District 8. And so we added those. And so that's when you start seeing more of the schools off to the right, up in the Evergreen Foothills area. And so we put all of those in there. And what's important to note is that you don't see that we're doing construction in front of a school, but you'll see that the schools that are nearest Ocala and maybe nearest Story, they'll be impacted by traffic. And in the sense that when people are if they work at the school, if you're a parent dropping your child off at that school, or if you're walking your child to that school and you need to cross Capitol Expressway, you will be impacted by the project. And so it's important that we reach out to the schools, or if they have school buses going through the area, if they have school buses going on Capitol Expressway. And so this is why outreach to the schools is really important to us. And it's mainly for the traffic issue. So they will be impacted. And one of the obstacles I found when I was reaching out to the schools during the environmental phase is they wouldn't share my flyers. They said I had to go through the school districts. And I had a really difficult time reaching out and calling the school districts, calling all the numbers, and nobody would call me back. And so then I was just blindly emailing, please share this. And so if anyone can help me connect with that one person that will call me back, that would be awesome. Mostly with Elm Rock and Eastside Union, I would appreciate it, because that is the that's the real importance with reaching out to the schools. Is the traffic side. So there we go. That's what we wanted to show you. And I'll show you the business listing one. That would be the next one. I'll bring that to the next meeting.
Oh yeah, okay.
And another one too is if I can get on PTA, if anyone is on a PTA and can get me on a PTA meeting, we'd be happy to present at one of those too, or a school district agenda, or so on for that. And so if you go to the next, we'll just kind of look at like the next one. Those numbers correspond with the map. So number 1 is on this list for Santa Clara University. National Hispanic University is number 1 on the map. And it goes all the way through. So that was all the schools. So you can go ahead and blow through the school slides. And this last one right here. I'm sorry, did anyone have questions about the schools? I just went through that. Good. Okay.
Kathleen, this is Sandy.
Hi, Sandy.
I have contacts at Elm Rock Unified and Eastside Union High School District.
I'm so calling you. Okay. You work at one, don't you?
Yeah, Eastside.
Okay, thank you. I'm calling you. Okay, great. See, I love this. This is how we get there. Okay, so future topics and the work plan through 2021. This can be flexible, but based on the project schedule, the staff and I, Ken, Ben, Hassan. Thank you, Laura. I just got your text. Thank you. Laura has a contact too. We developed a work plan going forward. Oh, you can go to the next slide. I'm sorry, David. Thank you. This is what we think you need to know. And let me just get this off my screen a little bit so I can see all of you better. And so it lists the meetings all the way through next year, which seems like a long time, but there's only 4 meetings a year. So when you look, like if you look towards the bottom, we've got noise and vibration, we've got the traffic every meeting, we've got tree removal and mitigation, because there's going to be a lot of that as we go through the project. And in each meeting is going to be building on each subject matter. We'll be building on it, and building on it. But I did also put in some additional, future use of the Reed Hillview Airport. I'm hoping to bring in somebody from the county to also just give their update. So we can have somebody directly from the county. We've asked Mary Rubin from the city of San Jose to come in next spring and talk about the art enhancements, even though that's something that won't happen till towards the end of the project. Just so it's not all about construction. We want to, keep our eye on the prize, keep things also, I think it's always interesting. I think construction is actually pretty cool and interesting. But just to, keep momentum going. But what I want to hear from you guys is, does this look like a good work plan, like something we want to, like for the agendas going forward, keeping in mind that if we put too much on, this keeps us here really late. So I want to be mindful of our timing too. And if we want to adjust this, we can adjust this. So I see hands, Julie. And then I think I heard Ernesto too. I see
No,
Julie, Craig.
Okay, I don't see anything on there. I know with the construction over by the Great Mall, does the budget allow for damages to homes caused by the vibration of putting in all these, whatever you're calling them? I know there was damage to foundations, roofs, windows, etc. And what are the citizens do to get paid, or what is the claim process going to be?
We do have a construction vibration mitigation plan. And it does involve surveys first. And if there was to be damage, we would absolutely cover that.
But
that's a short answer.
how okay. But I think things like that need to be brought up because that was a major concern over Great Mall, and people were not taken care of with those damages, from what I was told.
So this is Ken Ronci. Luckily, or maybe not luckily, depending how your point of view, I was a project manager for that project, so we could talk in detail at the next meeting. Our goal was to bring to you kind of what the plan would look like. What do we mean by pre-construction survey? What do we mean by impacts? What do we expect might be any of the impacts for damage, if there is any, how we would mitigate it, how people make claims. I think that's very important that we have a plan, that you understand it, and that we have a way to communicate that to folks. And I think it's going to take the better part of a meeting. So we've showed February as a day to focus on that. So noise and vibration, the third column or third row from the bottom, that will be one of the things we'll talk about. And we're really hoping that maybe you help us with that as well, because when we talk about noise and vibration and damage, I think it's real important that we identify what that criteria is and what damage means in that criteria. So it's a long discussion that we want to have with you in great detail next meeting.
Thank you.
I thought I saw another hand. Was it Craig? No? Okay.
You know what? I do have one more question. Is the Wilbur Capital Expressway light going to be affected? Because the light rail already goes through that area right now.
This is why we need all our traffic displays that we're going to bring in.
That's a very important intersection to get onto 680 that most of us in my neighborhood use, that light.
Yeah. So as part of the project, we have to readjust the track that is crossing Wilbur. So at some point during construction, so we'll have to close the intersection probably over the weekend to realign the tracks. So
I just want to make sure it's not good. It's still going to exist in the future.
Yes.
oh, it
Okay,
will
good.
exist in the future.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
Yes.
So this is why I put X's all the way across, because there's no way we can do this in one meeting. This is, and it's going to go into the following year. I mean, there's just, it built.
Yeah, and I don't expect to be answered now, but just I didn't know.
But your
what
questions
was
are
on the-
helpful, because then we know what to start bringing to the next meetings.
Okay.
So if there are other items you want to bring in, if you don't have to answer this tonight, if you want to think. I'm the kind of person that goes away from a meeting and has to think about it, and a couple days later, usually like at 2 a.m. is when I start getting these ideas. you know, it's not on the fly, but I'll be like, we know we should talk about this. But I just wanted to kind of, you know, so that, you know, we're preparing, you're preparing, and we're communicating, and if this is if it helps to anticipate our agendas. And if maybe, do we need to add a half an hour, or I don't want to add a whole hour. I don't want to do this to us, but I do want to be mindful of our time.
I have a question, Kathleen, for the group. Was the information tonight valuable? Are the exhibits helpful? I know that one of the biggest challenges is to try to convey information that is, you know, can be understood, right? That is clear, that the graphics help, that it's not a lot of words. So help us with that, you know, help us, you know, we took the video the other day, Ziad and I, and we just made a bunch of snapshots from it because we thought that was a better way to show some of these things. And that's what I shared on my screen when I took over the screen, was some snapshots really from the simulation for the video. And so if there's tools that would help us do that, tell us, because you know, we've been living with this project for a long time, and I want to make sure that we're providing information, and then the way we present it is resonating. And if not, tell us, because our job is to inform you, right? And so, you know, was tonight helpful in that regard? Was it easy to follow the information? Did the graphics help? Okay, good. Okay.
Sure, I just lost my train of thought. If you noticed on the work plan, I put a star on August 26, 2021, because that will be 1 year that we started this, and it comes up so quickly already. But I also want to mention too, on December 16th is the PAB meeting. So I hope if you didn't go to the last one, you know, if it works for your schedules, I believe it starts at 4 o'clock. Please attend. We'll do an update on this, and I hope they have it sometimes in December. It gets moved. But I hope they go forward and have the meeting. It's a good way to also give your updates, you know, if you have any updates you want to hear, you want them to hear. It's a good time. They do public comments. It's a good opportunity, not a good time. It's a good opportunity. It is late.
It's a good time.
It's a good time, you know. I miss in-person meetings. I found myself trying to like make eye contact with people, and I'm like, yeah, that is so not working right now.
So that you know, we provide a memo update and a verbal report every meeting. We will talk about the stakeholder working group and what our reflection is from that, not from, so an unbiased reflection. This is what was said, but you are always welcome to come. Those are public meetings. They're your participation, your audience, your voice is welcome at those. So you know, our job is to make sure that you're informed and that you have a way to communicate your input to us as staff, and we'll convey it for you, but you're also encouraged to convey it personally if you like. And the PAB is a great way to do that, the PAB meeting.
Kathleen, I'm sorry, when is going to be that meeting?
December 16th.
For 2021, right? Or
No. This year.
This year?
This, yeah, next month.
Oh, because I don't see anything right here. Okay.
No, it's not on. This is just the work plan for the stakeholder working group. Yeah.
So December 16th, right?
It's the Eastridge to BART Regional Connector Stakeholder Working Group.
Okay. Do you know the time, please?
It's usually 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
PAB stands for Policy Advisory Board.
I'm sorry. Yeah. See, that's what gets me in trouble when, you know, when I forget to spell it out. Go ahead, Julie. Julie, you were raising your hand, or?
Oh no, I was showing him 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
Oh,
everybody have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I think we're good. If we're done, you guys know you can reach me anytime. Well, not almost, you know, within reason. I am taking most of tomorrow off. I will get the survey out on Monday, and want everyone, there's the next, there we go, wrap up. There is the PAB meeting. There we go. I had it up there. Thank you, David. And then our 2021 stakeholder working group dates. Get that on your calendar.
The
Maybe one of
EBRC,
those will
that
get to meet
meeting-
in person.
That is a virtual meeting, so you're able to do it virtually, so we can
Yeah.
go on our website, go on the website under About Us, Committees and Board. Under there are the different policy advisory boards. You go on and just, it'll take you right to the link to launch the Zoom meeting.
And you can even sign up for updates so that you can get notifications to be reminded, just like you can for the projects. Okay, I want to thank all of you for hanging in there. We'll try not to go long like this again. I want to wish everyone a safe and healthy Thanksgiving. Actually, holidays, I won't see you before. I'll see you in February.
Next year.
Unless there's a community meeting you want to invite me to. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thanks,
Have a good night,
everybody.
everyone.
Appreciate it.
Everybody, all right, take good care. Happy
Good night.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.